Hey guys, what is up? It's me, EDJ Reacts, and we are watching another video by Kings and Generals. Today we are looking at Malik Ambar, African king in the heart of India. So this is something that I'm really looking forward to. Do I know anything about Malik Ambar? Nope. But I will once this video's done. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to learning about this new historical character and what he accomplished. I'm assuming he's going to be a king in India, which is a very interesting journey I'm imagining we're about to go through. So if you want to watch the original video by Kings and Generals, the link is down in the description down below. And if you want to help me in my goal of achieving 1,000 subscribers on this channel, feel free to please subscribe, but also like and comment. It would really help me out a lot since I really do want to grow, since I'm planning on doing this for a very long time, hopefully, if nothing bad happens. But yeah, either way. Now, without any further ado, let's get to it, shall we? Let us watch Malik Ambar, African king in the heart of India.
Everyone loves a good underdog story,
True.
whether it be the tale of a small country's struggle against a great empire, or the tale of a boy shackled into slavery and left to fend for himself in a strange land. Welcome to our video on the life of Malik Ambar, the remarkable story of a child of African herdsmen who defied the odds and rose to kingship, fighting a defiant war against the expansion of the mighty Mughal emperors in the heart of central India. The man who would become Malik Ambar was born in 1548 in central Ethiopia, with the birth name of Chapu. His people, the Oromo, were relative newcomers in the region, taking advantage of the instability caused by an ongoing war to migrate into the country. Chapu's childhood was a traditional Oromo peaceful pastoralist life. 16th century Ethiopia was a land defined by slavery. While it impacted all communities, Solomonic Christians and Adal Muslims in particular targeted the largely spiritualist Oromos. By 1555, over 12,000 slaves per year were captured and sold in Ethiopia, stripped of their freedom and shipped out to serve elites from Cairo to the heart of Persia. Sure enough, at only
I'm really happy we're kind of touching on Africa because in this channel, in regards to the Africa, the only times we really ever touched on it has mainly been Northern Africa, mainly, with Carthage or upper, sorry, I'm so itchy, upper Northern Africa to Egypt and around there. So, like, there's still so much of the continent that I know I don't really know anything about. I literally have only touched the tip of the iceberg in the most literal sense in regards to Africa. And the thing is, Africa, as with most continents, is just a very complex thing. It's sometimes, like, I feel like sometimes when I was younger, it was easier to just write it off, like, oh yeah, Africa, it's just Africa, you have, Africans there, and just, kind of just a very simplified view of it. Which it's not, by the way. There's so many kingdoms and tribes and groups, and it's never been like obviously one unified thing. It's been, and to this day still is very, splintered and whatnot. And it's its own place, very rich in history, because there have been like theories and in like science and whatnot that human life literally began in Africa, or around there, some of the earliest of human life. So there's just so much, and it didn't really, like, all these thoughts didn't really occur to me until like when we were covering the Ottoman Portuguese War by Kings and Generals a few months back. And then we kind of touch on the Christian kingdoms and how they kind of got involved in this like war. And it was like, wow, there's just so much to go. And I really wanting to get more into African history and really learn more about it. Something that always interested me about the slave trade, however, is that sometimes, it's kind of like the idea was, like the idea is like, oh, the white outsiders showed up and started taking, Africans away. And that did happen, don't get me wrong, but there's also a lot more to it. Especially in terms of like some Africans just capturing and selling other Africans into slavery. I remember learning about like in the slave trade that came up, like, yeah, not all Africans were, all together and one group. It's, splintered and whatnot, and there are various factions, and so some would just capture and sell, other Africans. And I remember that's like something very early I learned about the slave trade. So yeah, overall, there's just so much, and I'm really looking forward to hopefully this year learning more about, Africa.
12 years old, Chapu was captured by Arabic traders, becoming a statistic in an epidemic slave trade that spanned across the Indian Ocean. The young boy was put on auction in a slave market in a port on the coast of Yemen. Young, scared, and alone, the boy likely wondered if he would ever see his home or family again, while auctioneers peddled him as if he was no different to the coffee beans, musk, ivory, and silk on sale in the bazaar. Chapu was quickly sold, eventually ending up in the hands of a merchant named Mir Qasim, who took him to the restored cultural center of Baghdad. Qasim gave his slave a new Arabic name, Ambar. He also taught him how to read, write, and manage the finances of his master's business. After a decade in the heart of the Islamic world, Ambar was taken on a journey with Mir Qasim, who sought greater business ventures in more exotic lands. In 1571, the master and slave reached the west coast of India, a region known as the Deccan. As a young man in his early 20s, Ambar had finally arrived in the place where he would make his mark on history. Much like Ethiopia, the Deccan was a land defined by war, intrigue, and a delicate balance between its various peoples and religions. Politically, the plateau was divided into 5 sultanates, which typically were comprised of a ruling class of Muslim elites presiding over a mainly Hindu Marathi majority. Indo-Turks, Persians, and a smattering of European merchants also added to the land's social fabric. The rulers of this land walked along a dangerous edge. Violent coups were the norm, as sultans often found themselves slain at the hands of their own soldiers or via the work of rival sultanates. To compound matters, a new player had recently emerged in the game, the Mughal Empire. Founded by one Zahir-ud-Din Muhammad Babur, the Turkic dynasty had swept into the subcontinent, destroying the declining Delhi Sultanate in 1526. The Mughals established themselves as an imperial juggernaut in northern India, and licked their chops at the prospect of expanding into the small and divided sultanates to the south. Upon arrival in India, Ambar was once more sold. In the Deccan, Africans were known as Habshis, and were commonplace as slave soldiers or free mercenaries. Ambar's new master was the chief minister to the Sultan of Ahmednagar, a man known as Chengiz Khan, a name invoking the conqueror of old. Chengiz had much in common with Ambar. He too was of African origin and had once been enslaved. Since then, he had earned his freedom, and now commanded an army in the name of his lord, Murtaza of the Nizam Shahi dynasty. In meeting Chengiz, Ambar quickly learned.
Wow, that's really cool actually. Kindred literally have like kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? Meeting a kindred spirit and sort of gonna end up mirroring each other because obviously Malik's about to become a king. Well, I mean, granted, he's not a king per se, but like you know what I mean, right? Someone rising up, and overall, yeah, that's really interesting.
Learned that upwards mobility was possible for anyone in the Deccan, even a slave. Ambar began this new chapter of servitude as a soldier in training under his Habshi master. He was resolved to earn himself a higher position in life through determination and grit. He soon distinguished himself from the pack, catching Chengiz's eye with his impressive brawn, quick wit, and thorough education. Chengiz soon decided to make him his personal aide, grooming him for leadership. 3 years later, Ambar's sense of security was shattered once more. Courtiers jealous of Chengiz Khan's power had framed the minister for working against Ahmednagar, inducing the Sultan to have him executed.
Ooh.
It was a harsh wake-up call to the reality of Deccanese politics. However, there was a silver lining. Following Chengiz's death, Ambar was legally a free man. After nearly 2 decades, the Oromo was in control of his own destiny.
Wow.
He travelled south to the neighbouring Sultanate of Bijapur and enlisted in the local army. It was during this time that he met Karima, a fellow Habshi. Eventually, Ambar would marry Karima and have 4 children with her. As the Bijapuri ruler passed away, leaving an underage son as his heir, responsibility for the guardianship of the realm fell to the Queen Mother, a woman known as Chand Bibi. This regent proved to be incredibly competent. Well aware of the cutthroat nature of Deccanese politics, she introduced the concept of fidelity to the Salt, which espoused loyalty to the land itself rather than any one dynasty. The Sultana.
That's actually really smart. It's kind of like it's like when you hear about like nations declaring like you need to defend the motherland, right? Like they use the term motherland, and fight for your country, which is usually the land. And I think she might the concept is kind of similar is what I'm seeing. Loyalty to where you're from, and I think in some way that could inspire maybe at times bigger loyalty than any dynasty. You feel me? Like, okay, I'm fighting for my home. You're instilling the idea of this is my home, this is my land, I need to fight for it. Like, because sometimes with like with dynasties and kingdoms, sultanates, whatever, there's always going to kind of be a decline eventually, and sometimes they might lose the popular support of people with like policies and whatnot. We've seen it before, but like the idea of your home or the identity of your home, I hope I'm reading this right, I'm not misinterpreting what she's meaning, but loyalty to that, I feel like is something that'll always be a great motivator. And and will never like sway because your home is your home. Like, unlike a government or a group of people on top who you might end up not liking or not. It's kind of like in here in America. I mean, I'm pretty sure there are many other places, but I can only speak from an American perspective. Is that there's an idea that when people join the army, usually the number one reason is I love my country. I want to fight for my country. I want to serve my country. That's mainly what you'll hear. I have yet to hear anyone just say a different reason. And sometimes they don't probably like the current president, who is like kind of like the leader of our nation, right? Sometimes they may not even like it. Like, oh, I don't like, for instance, Donald Trump, but I love America. Like, kind of like not doing it for like the political establish of the politicians or whatnot, but just out of like a sense of duty and love for your from where you're from. And I think like if she doesn't mean exactly like that, I could at least kind of see it being interpreted to being similar, which I think is a great motivator. Just love for where you're from. So I think it's smart if it's kind of like going that direction, you get me? I think that's a great like move.
She introduced the concept of fidelity to the Salt, which espoused loyalty to the land itself rather than any one dynasty. The Sultana, as she was called, had many admirers. Chief among them was Ambar, who saw her as a role model. In time, Ambar had risen up in the Bijapuri ranks and built a small but dedicated following of mounted warriors, with whom he had likely distinguished himself in various small-scale border skirmishes. His loyalty to Regent Sultana and his effectiveness in battle led to Chand Bibi's young son bestowing upon him the symbolic title of Malik, an Arabic word for chieftain or king. The year was now 1595, and the Mughal Empire had finally turned their attention back to the Deccan after suppressing rebellions in the east. For Emperor Akbar, it was a good time to invade. Ahmednagar was racked by internal strife. The most recent Nizam Shah had died in a border war with neighbouring Bijapur. In the ensuing power vacuum, none other than Chand Bibi laid claim to the throne through her nephew's Nizam Shahi blood. This caused the reigning Ahmednagari chief minister to make the fatal mistake of inviting the Mughals into his realm to protect his power. Sure enough, a mighty imperial host led by Prince Murad Mirza, son of Akbar, descended down on Ahmednagar. Realizing he'd made a deal with the devil, the minister fled the country, and the warrior Sultana seized the mantle of resistance. At Fort Ahmednagar, Chand Bibi met the Mughal army with her own. Donned in full armor and an Islamic veil, she flung herself into battle alongside her men.
That's really awesome. Again, like I've mentioned this on and off again in various videos. We don't really see many women. I feel like in history, in general, there's like women don't really play a big vital part, which is, I guess in some ways sad. Even in historical YouTuber settings, I feel like all historical YouTubers I watch are mainly dudes, and the very few of women I've seen, mainly when we talk about like clothes, like how people of like the Victorian era dressed. So like I said, it's like it feels kind of like a rarity whenever I come across you know a woman leader in these videos, which I always manage to take note and be very impressed. And the ones we've come across, like Empress Wu of China, or like Maria Theresa, Maria Theresa, who I really all liked. Like, again, I was impressed by Empress Wu and her political maneuvering in China. She reminded me a lot of Augustus Caesar, and I mean that in the highest praise, because Augustus Caesar is my favorite Roman emperor, in my opinion, the best. But, and then Maria Theresa, who I really liked Maria Theresa. I think she was a great historical figure for the Austrian Empire. She kept it together, and I was overall very sympathetic, and I liked her. I was especially like kind of against Frederick the Great after he straight up stole Silesia. I was like, that's so messed up. But she made him suffer for 7 years, so she got her payback in some sense. But point is, those are the two big ones that I can think of, and I like them. And it seems like, okay, Bibi, wait. Yeah, so Bibi. I just want to make sure. I'm kind of nervous about the way I pronounce things sometimes. But, point is, yeah. And Bibi's really cool, too. I really admire that, like, competent, already established herself. I like that whole loyalty to the land idea. I think that's a genius, great move for morale and getting people to fight. Kind of like a... I don't think national is the word I'm looking for, but, love for the land. Yeah, we'll go with that. And now this, willing to throw hands and be in the thick of the fighting with everyone else. And again, usually it's often been said that war is a man's game. We don't really send women on the front lines to fight, because I think even like by in terms of a biological sense, men are just stronger than women. You know what I mean? Like and so we usually, again, as history has proven, even though there are women in the military, I don't think we'd send them in the front lines at all. So point is, war kind of has often been, the saying is, war has been a man's game. So the fact to see that is actually really interesting, and I have found another woman historical figure who now I kind of like. I'm like, okay, I mess with you. You're cool. You're up there with Wu, and you're up there with Maria Theresa. I'm gonna be referencing Bibi in future videos whenever another woman historical figure pops up. So she's part of the big three now. um Again, just respect. I have a lot of respect already in the few minutes that I've met this historical figure.
Seized the mantle of resistance. At Fort Ahmednagar, Chand Bibi met the Mughal army with her own. Donned in full armor and an Islamic veil, she flung herself into battle alongside her men. Ambar had not been idle either. He had long since left Bijapur with his contingent of cavalrymen and joined forces with his sultana. He and his fighters harassed the Mughal army during the battle, destroying provisions and disrupting supply lines. Exhausted and demoralized after a fruitless siege, the imperial forces soon withdrew.
Wow.
For a scant few years, there was peace in Ahmednagar, with Chand Bibi as regent. But in a climate thick with paranoia, it was not to last. In 599, Bibi met her end in typical Deccani fashion, slain by her own soldiers, who were fueled by a false accusation that she was selling Ahmednagar out to the Mughals.
Oh.
Without the lead.
Oh, that's sad. Oh, that's a tragic end for someone who I've already grown to like. Oh, that's sad. Yeah, but it seems like politics are just brutal. I mean, it's brutal in most areas we've covered in world history in the past. It's just all... I'm trying to think of one where it wasn't so brutal. Holy crap, I actually don't think I can at the moment. Yeesh.
Leadership of this iron-willed woman, the Imperials fell upon Ahmednagar once more the next year, easily taking it and capturing Bibi's young puppet nephew, thereby decapitating the country's government.
Dang.
It was now time for Malik Ambar to take to the main stage. In honor of his sultana, he pledged his fidelity to the Sult. The Deccan was his home, and he would not let it fall. With Ahmednagar's rightful heir in captivity and its army in disarray, Ambar took up the Herculean task of piecing together the tattered scraps of a nation while fending off Mughal expansionism. Fortunately, he had never stopped preparing for war. By 1596, his relentless raids on Mughal territory had brought 3,000 soldiers to his side. By 1600, this number had swelled to 7,000. Persians, Turks, Habshis and Marathi Hindus all joined the Abyssinian commander for plunder and freedom. The Mughals' conquest of Fort Ahmednagar granted them a tenuous hold on the Sultanate's capital city. Nevertheless, they found further ingress into Ahmednagari lands consistently foiled. Realizing he could never take the empire head-on, Ambar employed the tactic he called Baghi Giri. The native Marathis in Ambar's army were legendary for their deadliness as light cavalry. Once his scouts had informed him of a Mughal position, he deployed the mounted Hindu warriors to strike like lightning, destroying food and water supplies and harassing Mughal soldiers. The imperial forces, over-encumbered with their heavy cannons and lumbering war elephants, simply could not keep up, and without...
Very smart, using adaptability and speed. So much in times of war, I've noticed that the army that's faster and more adaptable will usually prevail in a lot of circumstances. And again, speed and maneuverability are both great assets to have. You think of like some of the greats, and a lot of big advantages that they had that made them great was simply outmaneuvering and being faster than your foe. So very smart. Kind of reminds me when I was playing in my first campaign when I was playing Total War Rome 2. It ended in disaster because I was playing as Macedon for my first ever time. I didn't know how to play. I just threw myself into the grand campaign and just hoped to learn along the way, and complete disaster. I ended up going to war with Epirus, defeating them by a fluke. A complete accident that I managed to defeat Epirus. was unable to capitalize, and so didn't really expand. And then I went to war with this kingdom called the dang it, what were they called? The Ober something. No, they weren't called that. Point is, it's this kingdom that's literally on top north of Macedon. And so like my goal was to I thought it was going to be an easy conquest, and they defeated me hard because most of my army was like pikemen and is and my cavalry, and they had like horse cavalry horse missile units. Mine were just all melee, so like I couldn't catch them, and they would just like outmaneuver and keep shooting me. And then eventually they got rid of my cavalry, and then they got rid of my main army because like whenever I tried to move my land troops to try to get them, they would just move out of the way and keep firing at us. So like that's when I realized, okay, they're lighter, more faster troops. Outdid me, and then they conquered all my territory, and that was the end of my first campaign. Oh boy. Oh yeah, and that's what they were called, the Tribali. Yeah, that's it. And that's when I really realized the importance of fast cavalry and good ranged units. So sorry, I just wanted to share that because I thought it was a hilarious end to my first ever campaign. Just completely got destroyed on the battlefield. They besieged all my settlements and then took my kingdom. Dang.
Out provisions were forced to retreat. Ambar had turned the Mughal army's greatest strength, its size, into its greatest weakness. Even while fighting...
Same exactly how I was beaten. But it's true though, like a big army can be very slow because of the supply lines and whatnot. So like harassment tactics are usually the best when it comes to it, especially if they can't catch you, because then you can just keep kind of withering them down while they try to do whatever. So overall, a good move. Great new way to approach this.
In a guerrilla war, Ambar still had a government to rebuild. Decani nobles could never accept an African as their king, but Malik did not need a crown to rule. From neighbouring Bijapur, he fished out a young heir of the Nizam Shahi family and installed him as Sultan Murtaza Nizam Shah II. Ambar offered the new sultan his daughter in marriage, tying himself closer to the royal line.
Smart.
As expected, the Oromo was appointed as Ahmednagar's regent minister.
This is so smart. Bro can literally be a king without a crown. Which is just really genius move on his part, and like immediately getting his daughter married, like genius move, bro.
By the puppet king he had installed, making him the de facto ruler of the revived sultanate. From 1600 to 1610, Ambar walked on a tightrope, balancing war with the Mughals with the inherent perfidiousness of Decani politics. In 1603, he put down a rebellion launched by 3 of his officers, all while feigning a treaty with the Mughals so that they would not take advantage of the situation. 1605 saw the death of Emperor Akbar, who was replaced by his son Jahangir. The new Mughal sovereign launched campaigns into the Deccan with renewed vigour, but the effectiveness of Ambar's Baghi-giri kept him at bay. Jahangir would struggle fruitlessly against the Abyssinian for decades, eventually growing so infuriated that he ordered an imperial portrait of himself shooting a decapitated Ambar in the head. This
Wow, talk about petty. That's hilarious.
painting remained forever a fantasy, for the emperor would never capture his cunning foe. In 1610, Ambar was subject to more court intrigue. Up until then, the puppet on Ahmednagar's throne had been a compliant stooge. Ambar's daughter was but one of Sultan Murtaza's many wives, and one of them, a Persian woman, had since turned him against the regent minister with hushed words of sedition. Once he caught wind of this, Ambar had both the wife and the Sultan swiftly assassinated, installing the 5-year-old Burhan Nizam Shah III to the throne. No one would threaten the Malik's control, especially not the sultans whose power came only by his accomplishments.
I mean, true. Dang, I was gonna be like, how's he gonna like handle this? Just immediately murdered them. And it's like, alright, time, let's get another puppet. They have to know, right? Like, they have to realize he's the true power behind the throne. At least those around him, right? Like, this is definitely for the general populace, but I think those around like realize, oh snap, this guy's the real guy in charge, you feel me?
Later that year, Malik's forces stormed and occupied Fort Ahmednagar, seizing it from the Mughal garrison. Galvanized by the string of victories that followed, Ambar moved Ahmednagar's capital closer to the Mughal border. In 1612, a treaty was secured with the empire, and the Abyssinian potentate was afforded time to build up his new city and secure stability in his realm. Over the next decade, commerce flowed into the new capital, which today is known as the city of Aurangabad. Ambar worked tirelessly to improve the infrastructure of his realm, overseeing the construction of an aqueduct system that fed clean water to his capital and its surrounding suburbs, while actively maintaining and repairing the over 40 forts in his territory, ensuring he had touchpoints to spot the next Mughal invasion. Under his patronage, both Hindu and Muslim arts flourished, and palaces and mosques were erected to increase the prestige of Ahmednagar. Over the next few years, the truce with the Mughals was predictably broken, and fighting continued once more. In 1616, Ambar suffered his first major defeat against the imperial host, who used a system of trenches to entrap the Ahmednagari cavalry and devastate them with artillery.
Ooh. Oh, they've learned. They're learning. Dang. Yeah, I guess cut down their speed. Trenches, I guess, to create, not only trap them, but also, I guess, if they're on the other side, kind of ensure they can't reach them, and then use great artillery. Dang, good move.
This loss gave the Mughals a stable foothold in Ahmednagar once more, and from there the situation continued to snowball. The Bijapur Sultan smelled blood in the water. Previously he had been an ally to Ambar in the war against imperial aggression, but by 1618 it became clear the Adil Shah intended to collaborate with the Mughals. Seeing their conquest of the Deccan as an inevitability, he conspired to destroy Ahmednagar for the preservation of his own realm. The noose was tightening around Malik's neck, and he knew he had to act swiftly, lest he be wiped from the pages of history.
Dang. How's he gonna pull this off? This is like a really bad situation. They've revitalized their tactical approach to get rid of his main advantage, which was his cavalry. And then now we have the divide and conquer politics playing into... Oh, that's a really bad situation.
A spree of Bagigiri raiding in Bijapuri territory forced an allied Mughal Bijapuri army to meet Ambar on his own terms. On September 10, 1624, Ambar chose to make his stand in a fort within the village of Batvadi. The village stood on a hilly bluff overlooking the western shore of Lake Kalindi. It was the rainy season, so as the enemy's massive army approached, Ambar ordered the lake's dam struck and the lowlands flooded, turning the ground at the Mughals' feet into a thick, muddy bog.
Oh, wow.
As he had done his whole career, Ambar turned his enemies' superior numbers and heavier units against themselves. Artillery, war elephants, and infantry were wholly immobile in the wet.
It's true. That's kind of reminds me of like the Waterloo situation and discourse around it, like how the mud and whatnot kind of put some damper and made the battle have to go a few hours later or something like that. That's a genius move. The way he manages to immediately negate the enemy's numerical superiority or find ways around it is really... The guy's really cunning. I think very clever. So wow, good on him.
Hellscape that the Malik had created for them. Night after night, his Marathi cavalry sallied down the hillside while shrouded in darkness, destroying provisions and picking off the enemy. For the Mughal soldiers, the effect was thoroughly demoralizing. Gripped by terror and starvation, large chunks of the army defected to Ambar, who welcomed them warmly. With his army swelling and the Mughals shrinking, Ambar adjusted his doctrine and began attacking with wholesale cavalry assaults by day, devastating a foe that remained stuck in the mire and psychologically broken. Thoroughly
Genius, bro. Just genius.
beaten and incredibly humiliated, the Mughals were forced to retreat after sustaining heavy losses. Not only had Ambar once more humbled the mighty empire, he had foiled the attempts of his fellow Decani Sultanate to collaborate in his destruction, and ensured the independence of his realm. The Battle of Batwadi would be his greatest and last achievement. 2 years later, Malik Ambar passed away at the ripe old age of 80.
Oh, wow.
Unfortunately, Ahmednagar's rebel spirit died.
Dang, he lived old. Wow. He was like 70 doing that. Holy crap.
With him. Ambar's son succeeded him as regent minister, but lacked his father's military mind. In 1636, the forces of Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan finally annexed Ahmednagar, ending over 30 years of war. Nevertheless, the legacy of Malik Ambar is still one to be admired. A military leader of exceptional skill, he consistently outwitted an empire he was thoroughly outnumbered and outgunned by for decades. No Mughal overlord, no matter how many dark fantasy paintings he commissioned, would ever get the best of Ambar.
It's true, bro. Honestly, bro, it's a rip GG, bro, and rip Ambar. That was impressive. What a life.
His physical footprint still remains in the Deccan today. The modern city of Aurangabad is in and of itself a testament to this, where the aqueducts that he built during his reign still stand, as does the austere tomb that he was buried in. By and large, they are a reminder of a time when an African ruled the heart of India. We always have more.
And the way he did it through just kind of like placing puppets, basically being the true power behind the throne, like great political mind and maneuver to gain power and keep it. Overall, I'm really happy. Like, I know I come into these videos blind on purpose because I personally like not knowing what the fudge is gonna happen. I said fudge. I don't actually curse, but you know, like what the fudge is going to happen, because I find it more fun to like not know. And videos like this are a great example. Like, sure, it'd probably be better if I came in knowing everything and could spew so many more facts, but I don't know, it's just funner to like kind of learn along the process for me and just be introduced to new historical figures like this. And then usually on my own time after I watch a video, I'll look more into it off screen. But yeah, this was really great, and I really enjoyed this this video, and I was really happy to be introduced to another really cool dude with a really cool story. Like, I'm telling you, bro, history has so many, like, things you could make so many, like, freaking movies or shows from. I feel like Hollywood is, like, is not utilizing gold with so much of history. Like, I just feel like it could easily translate itself to, you know, like entertainment. So I'm kind of sad that I feel like the entertainment movie industry has not like capitalized more on history. Like, again, like my dream is to ultimately have a Diadoki War series. But again, you could just make so much movies or shows based on of so much events and people. It's insane. Real life can be like stranger, but in many ways maybe even better than fiction, at least in my opinion. So yeah, I'm gonna end the video right here, and I'll see you guys tomorrow when we do something new. Bye, everyone.